In today's video, the science of peaking.
By myself.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Ravella from ProPhysique.com and happy 2019. Hope you guys are off to a great start this year. And we're gonna start with a new issue of MASS, the monthly application of strength sport. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna review the science of peaking because there was a study done on Peak Week, the science of peaking for a bodybuilding competition. There's not a lot of research out there on this topic, so I was very excited when I got this month's issue. So if you're interested in MASS, the monthly application of strength sport, click the link below. 3 experts, Mike Zordos, Eric Helms, and Greg Knuckles, review the research that's out there. All those PubMed studies that you see, they review them and see if there's information that's relevant to what we're interested in, whether it be getting shredded, getting strong, high performance, looking great, whatever it might be, staying healthy. There's lots of good information in there, and this is actually the 3rd year that they've done it, so there's lots of issues. So check it out in the link below. And today we're gonna talk about the science of peaking. So a study was done in 2016 and 2017 in British Natural Bodybuilding, where they sent a questionnaire to a bunch of the competitors and asked them questions related to their peaking process, their peak week. And they found that most of the people actually did some sort of manipulation with carbohydrates, with sodium, maybe even potassium going into their show. And so I want to talk to you guys about the science of peaking, what I've learned, and how I approach things now. I'm going to give you specific examples of how I handle peaking for myself, for my clients, and where kind of I got that information from. So one of the things that the article discusses is manipulating water, manipulating sodium. So I want to talk about the science behind that. The thinking was that by manipulating water and sodium, you could actually remove fluid from the intracellular layer in our skin, right? This little layer of skin, and you've heard the people talk about the thin skin look. Well, you cannot manipulate the water just in that area, okay? Outside of sweating, you're not gonna lose water just underneath the skin. When you lose water from the body, when you dehydrate the body keeps the same relative balance. So, meaning if there's intramuscular water, you're gonna lose that water. Also, the vascular system, our blood, has a lot of water in it. So when you dehydrate the body, you basically lower blood pressure. So has anybody been on a show day and noticed that they had a really tough time getting a pump? Well, it comes down to blood pressure. You don't have enough fluid volume in your blood to get a good pump. So that's the real big issue that I've learned over the years. And anybody that's been to the gym and just not felt good that day, well, if you looked at your hydration and if you looked at your sodium intake in that day and the day leading up, you probably noticed there was a drop off of some kind, okay? That's gonna be the biggest issue with any of these types of measures that take a big manipulation very close to show day, okay? Because as you get very, very lean, your blood pressure stops, your blood pressure lowers, your heart rate lowers, okay? So it can be harder to get a pump. So it's very important that we are not risking that after months and months of work to get on stage, that you don't look your absolute best. So what is the best approach? Well, I'm gonna give you my opinion, okay? So first things first, the article mentions that water manipulation has decreased over the last couple decades in bodybuilding. But I would slightly disagree with that. You see, this study was done in British Natural Bodybuilders. I will agree that natural bodybuilding has kind of been progressive in its thinking as far as manipulating water and sodium and carbs and all that stuff. You see, Dr. Joe Klemczewski years ago brought to the attention of the natural bodybuilding world that you do not need to do these manipulations. You do not need to risk pulling out water and pulling out sodium. In fact, if you do that, you're not going to look your best on show day, okay? However, Dr. Joe was focused on the natural bodybuilding world. I still feel that the NPC and the IFBB, the biggest coaches, the most well-known coaches, are still giving their clients plans that include pulling water out, pulling sodium out, feeling like crap the last couple days going into a show, okay? And I know this because I work with a lot of those people, and I've had them work and I've seen their other peaking plans, and well, I've kind of fixed them and resolved them. I've had clients that were never really successful at nationals, and then I was able to get them a pro card, okay? So I'm not tooting my own horn here. I just want to get the information out there that possibly there's a better way, and I certainly don't feel like manipulating water is going to be a good way. Now, one thing that manipulating water does do is if you're not lean enough, then you might temporarily look a little bit better, right? All of us have like gotten in the sauna and gotten out and been like, wow, we look better. Well, that's a temporary change, okay? That's not something that's sustainable. And when talking about competing, you don't have access to a sauna. You might be standing around backstage for hours. You don't know when you're gonna pump up, what time you're gonna go on stage. In an ideal situation, maybe you could do some type of manipulation of fluids with a sauna or something like that, but we don't have that luxury at a bodybuilding show. You need to look great all the time. And how do we do that? Well, I'm gonna tell you the short answer here. First, get truly stage lean. If you're truly stage lean, then very little is going to negatively impact you. In fact, when you are truly stage lean, you do not want to mess with the variables that much. You want to really just pay attention to what's going on with your body on a day-to-day basis and make sure you're doing things properly. When you're truly stage lean, and very few people actually get truly stage lean, you're going to feel terrible. Your body is going to be kind of run down. You're not going to have great workouts, right? You're going to be kind of moody. So how do you know if you're truly stage lean? Well, look at the pictures of the people that are winning the shows that you want to compete in. Those are the people that are putting in a little more work, they're dieting a little bit longer, they're getting a little bit leaner, and they're coming in a little bit harder. A lot of people will say, well, how do you get that thin skin look? How do you get that hard look? That's how. You come in absolutely peeled, and it is not easy. And I, as a coach, this is one of the discussions I have. I have to send pictures, I have to make explanations, I have to set expectations so that we're going to get leaner and lighter than we've ever been to ensure we can peak properly. When you're absolutely shredded, peaking is actually not that difficult. So let's talk about a couple of the peaking strategies that I've employed over the years, and let's talk about the one that I use now with the most success. So my first coach was Lane Norton, and he used an approach to peaking where he did not manipulate water, as in we didn't pull it out, we didn't manipulate sodium, and it worked rather well. I did what's called a front load, meaning the week of the show, I loaded up on carbohydrates after a weekend before of kind of depletion. Low carbs on Saturday and Sunday. I would do a really high carb day on Monday and then taper carbohydrates down into the show on Saturday. And then maybe Friday I would bring them back up. So did this work? My first couple shows were fantastic. I always won. I won my first 3 shows that I was in, and I think I had an advantage, especially competing in the NPC when people were backstage after not having water or sodium for 2 days. They were trying to load carbohydrates the day before the show. Let me tell you a little story about loading carbohydrates when you're not drinking water and you're not taking sodium. Well, the transport system for carbohydrates is sodium. So if you don't have enough sodium in your body, well, it's not going to get to the muscle cells, okay? And if you're trying to backload carbohydrates, well, there is a time restraint from digestion for those carbohydrates to get to the muscle cells, okay? So how can we manipulate things in our favor? How can we make sure that we look the best we can possibly look on show day, right? And I have a simple approach. Okay, so the problem I had with the front load when I had a big carb day on Monday was that I would look great on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then I would gradually start to get a little bit softer going into the show, and my Friday kind of carb increase would never match the look that I had on Tuesday or Wednesday early in the week. Still, I got a great pump on show day and I looked great, but I didn't look the best I had looked all week. So it always kind of bothered me that I was not really kind of nailing this process down. So I started experimenting. There's also an approach called a backload. Now, depending on how you approach the backload, you kind of deplete for a couple days going into the end of the week. Now Thursday or Friday, you might start ramping up the carbohydrates, the water, the sodium, and loading. So the issue I had with that was that, again, you're playing with timing. You're expecting the body, which is completely depleted of all its nutrients, to fill back out in a rapid manner, and then you have to nail the timing, because if they don't get in there quick enough, right, you're gonna not be as full and hard as you could possibly be on show day. And if they fill up too quickly, you could again soften up, or you could even spill. So this takes a lot of expertise and a physique that is completely shredded for the rapid backload, as you call it, okay? So in both situations, I saw fault, and I tried both variables with my clients. It wasn't until I reached out to Dr. Joe a couple of years ago and said, hey Joe, I have one client that I'm just having trouble peaking perfectly. I've tried every method with him. We've manipulated everything. We've done tons of shows together. We have tons of data. And he told me about something called linear progressive loading. And the way he explained it to me was, if you think of each muscle in your body as a balloon, right? And you deplete in the front load approach, you deplete before the weekend, right? And then you fill the balloon back up. And then it looks great, and then as the week goes on, the balloon's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and then you might try to prop up the balloon again. So your muscles look pretty good. Versus the rapid backload approach, all right? So then you're taking the full muscle and you're depleting it completely, right? And then right before the show, you're trying to fill it back up. Now, the timing could be just right. The timing could be too soon or too late, okay? That depends on the person, depends on the peaking protocol and how it looks. So when Joe explained to me that the best way to peak was a linear progressive load, meaning you start at the beginning of the week with kind of a moderate approach to carbohydrates and sodium and water, and you just add every single day, right? So that you are waking up every morning and looking at the athlete. This requires a little bit of attention on the part of the coach, but every morning you're paying attention so that we ensure that you're going to look great. Because one of the issues I had with the front load was that, you know, after months of dieting, your metabolic rate's kind of suppressed and all hormones are kind of suppressed, your blood pressure's low. Well, when you do that front load, you get that big boost of carbohydrates and it kind of ramps up the metabolism. And I find that I would actually start dropping weight rather rapidly during peak week, which is cool if you're a competitor who's like really excited about seeing the scale go down. But if it means that you're gonna come in a little bit flatter on show than you want to, well, it's not ideal to see the scale drop. So the linear progressive load, and in my case, someone like myself, I started with, let's say 275 grams of carbs on Monday, and I would add 40 or 50 grams of carbs each day and look at myself and notice if I was spilling, if I was harder. I would pay attention to my workouts. Was I getting full? Was I seeing vascularity? And then I could add from there or subtract each day based on how I looked. This approach to me is the most scientific approach to getting on stage. Why? The least risk is involved. Why doesn't everyone do it? I believe it requires the most work. I do 2 check-ins with my clients during peak week every single day. I want to know how they look when they wake up, and I want to know how they look after they work out. It's a very demanding protocol, but it yields the best possible result. Again, the most important thing here is consistency. We want to eliminate as many variables as possible. Now, although I preach flexible dieting year-round, during peak week, I want the same exact foods to be ate. One of the problems with other peaking protocols, when you add in foods that you haven't had in a while, digestion can change, you don't know how you're going to respond. So we keep those foods the same and we just start to increase them. This keeps sodium consistent, this keeps digestion consistent. This might seem boring, but we want boring. We want predictable during the week of a contest, okay? So that's it, guys. That's my approach. I don't want to make this video too long. It's called the linear progressive load. I can do a video just specifically on this if you'd like, but I think for now, that's going to be it. I hope you guys will download Mass. Check it out for yourselves. There's lots of information in there, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.
By myself.